now about to cross underneath 83rd Street, again with what it looks like no intention of exiting the highway. Last exit of the Dan Ryan is 95th Street. Then you either go west and south to I-57 or south and east to I-94, which is the Bishop Ford. Looks like he's slowing down a little bit here as we go under 83rd Street.
Got to be tired by now. Running out of gas, you could say.
Something to consider, yeah. So everything's slowing down, and as a result, traffic is pretty much just coming to a halt right now on the outbound Dan Ryan. Looking back over my shoulder, looks like at about 43rd Street all the way down. We don't want to move the camera because we don't want to lose the shot here of the horse, which is now crossing under the 83rd Street Bridge. Okay, and
yeah,
it looks like the poor horse.
That's been a lot of galloping.
Yeah. So maybe we'll take the horse into consideration and get off the Dan Ryan here, and he gets a second win. So here we go.
Oh, man.
So for everybody who's just tuning in now, let's kind of recap all this. Maybe about 15 minutes ago, we picked up what we call the Census Cowboy here, or the Dreadlock Cowboy here, that is southbound on the Dan Ryan. We picked up about 55th Street in the local lanes, and now has made his way all the way down south of 83rd, about to approach 87th Street, with an entourage of maybe about a half a dozen or more motorcycles that have been moving with him. And now they are essentially a slow-moving procession that is shutting down the outbound Dan Ryan, although moving maybe at about 10, 15 miles an hour as we approach the 87th Street exit. We did see at some point the Chicago squads pulling up next to the horseback rider here, and from dispatches I heard kind of encouraging that man to exit the highway. That has not happened. The Chicago squad, as Max just showed you, now joined by the Illinois State Police.
And Mike, I want to point something out.
Southbound here at 87th Street.
Carol Marine, who, as I mentioned, is a horsewoman herself, says she's concerned because, Patrick, you said you noticed some red. Maybe the hoof may be, she believes the horse's hoof might actually be bleeding, that it's not good for the horse to be riding on the pavement like this.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that, she's concerned with the way he's holding the reins as well. So this may actually be a very difficult circumstance for the horse. You're right, it does look red. And
yeah, it cannot be good running like
according to Carol, who actually has horses and rides regularly and has for years, this is not good for the horse at all. She's even calling this animal
That's
abuse.
a real good point, and I was just thinking the same thing when we were seeing that horse slow down, almost coming to a halt here at 83rd Street. Slowing down, looks like might a little, at the very least, may have been exhausted, but also could be injured, which would be a bad thing. Now gaining a little bit more speed, but yeah, that stride certainly looks different here as we cross southbound Dan Ryan under the 87th Street Bridge than it did here south of 55th Street. And again, everybody's slowing down, so let's take this in and see what happens. Other thing to consider, you talk about the horse, which is now basically walking very slowly. We've had a few cars whizzing by on the shoulder here, and although there is a coordinated event to kind of keep the traffic down, Max, widen out. What's this car doing up to the right here, or up in the left shoulder? There's a car right there. Okay, that's a motorcycle that's completely pulled over. Sorry, kind of taking things in from an aerial perspective. Now everything's about shut down. So in front of us, we've actually got people out on the highway. Go to your right if you can, Max, about 2 blocks. There's a vehicle that's opened up and somebody's standing out on the highway. A little more to your right here. That's the motorcycle. Go to your right. That vehicle right there. Now somebody else just got out of the highway and they're taking
pictures.
Cell phone video and pictures out on the Dan Ryan. You know, we thought 2020 had everything, and now we're seeing a horse on the Dan Ryan with a photographer facing northbound and southbound lanes taking picture, as though this is the final stretch here at Arlington Park, but it's not. We're on the outbound Dan Ryan here, and we're just south of 87th Street. The traffic starts to move again. The horse starts to pick up again. And I'm sure there are a lot of frustrated Dan Ryan commuters behind the Census Cowboy, as we call him here, moving with an entourage of about a half a dozen motorcycle riders outbound Dan Ryan, just south of 87th Street.
And this has been going on. When did you start noticing this, Mike?
We noticed this, I'd say about 4:30. We had come up here about 4:30, 4:32. We noticed this. I was telling the director in my ear, like, we need to get this on the air as soon as possible because we didn't know how long this was going to last, because the minute that I noticed it around 4:30, my pilot Roger actually pointed it out, I started hearing dispatches of this and the fact that we had to get this horseback rider off the Dan Ryan. It just gives you an idea, though, of the whole idea of pursuits again, which is something we've covered in Sky 5 and done reports behind the scene, and what's involved in there and the caution that has to be taking place. And now you've got an animal to worry about here as well, and a half a dozen motorcycle riders. So the police are doing what they can. They've got to take precaution here, and although I'm sure they want this horseback rider and the motorcycles off the Dan Ryan because of all the safety hazards that can be intact here, they've got to be cautious. You can't lead a horse to water, and you can't lead a horse to an outbound Dan Ryan exit unless he wants to go there and his rider wants to go there, and that's not the case right now. So we keep scooting along. We're going under the CSX tracks here of the outbound Dan Ryan, and that is right before 91st Street. We're a half a mile away from the big 95th overpass. That's the CTA red line, and last chance to exit the Dan Ryan is coming up soon. And if the horseback rider doesn't exit the Dan Ryan here at 95th, then we got to go ways out in I-57 to the Bishop Ford. We'll see what happens as the horseback rider and the entourage come on the other side here of the freight train tracks that run east and westbound about 8900 south here on the Dan Ryan.
And Mike, while you guys keep that shot there as we wait to see what happens next, just looking back, how far backed up is traffic on the outbound Dan Ryan?
So I was just able to get a look over my shoulder, and I think we're in the stretch run here, by the way, arms in the air like, well, we obviously just don't care. The outbound Dan Ryan 51st out to about 95th Street, where the Census Cowboy seems to be taking his final ride here maybe and getting off at 95th Street. Now the horse has slowed down again.
Yeah.
So 91st Street, we're southbound Dan Ryan. The horse is slowing down. The motorcycles are with them. Looks like they're making their way over to the right, and maybe we're going to have a final exit here at 95th Street. And then we'll see what happens after that, see if this gentleman's going to be arrested and if the motorcycle driver's involved, or, you know, we don't know the nature of this event, and we had no previous information. We just happened to be on the Dan Ryan. Oh, look, a horse, and followed, and here we are now with the entourage, about a half a dozen motorcycle riders, the man riding on the horseback, about 2 or 3 Chicago squads now in a couple of right lanes in the outbound Dan Ryan just before 91st Street, with the exit coming up at 95th. I've looked ahead. I see a couple of the motorcycles getting off at 95th Street, so I think that is going to be their destination, exiting the outbound Dan Ryan here in about a half a mile at 95th Street. We will see what happens.
Well, the horse looks exhausted, so I hope it gets its way to somewhere and it
Gets
can
a
be
break.
get not just a break, but some care. It looks like it might be some care based on what Carol Marine had noted. And I wonder what the charge will be. What is it? What kind of charge do you face when you are
Well, definitely resisting police, it looks like.
potentially and blocking? I don't know. We'll find out, and we'll be sure to try to get back to the resolution. It looks like this is the exit here,
What
Mike?
exit is this here, Mike?
So this is the outbound Dan Ryan. It's a long exit that takes you out to 95th Street, which is the last exit over the Dan Ryan itself. Again, if you keep going south of here, you either go I-57 to the right or Bishop Ford I-94, which is the old Calumet Expressway way back. That's on the left. So he is exiting here, outbound Dan Ryan at 95th. Easiest charge here, you know, with expressways in Lakeshore Drive, there are different restrictions on what kind of vehicles that you can ride. Obviously, You know, you can't ride a horse on the expressway, I'm sure. You can't ride a bicycle on the expressway. Can't be a pedestrian on the expressway. So I'm sure if there was a charge, it'd be in line with something like that. And as we say that, a Chicago squad now getting ahead of this horse here as he about to exit the outbound Dan Ryan here at 95th Street.
Well, I hope it does get some rest. And, you know, we have seen protests on the expressway before, and I don't believe people were charged in those cases. We've seen Father Pfleger and groups like his have protests along the Dan Ryan against gun violence. So maybe this is a form of protest that we don't know about, and we'll learn more about it, I'm sure, in the coming hours.
That's true, Marion, but there's something good to point out with that, though. Those types of protests, and even the protests that are, based against the police in some cases, are coordinated with the police. So the police will kind of like shut down the highway ahead of time. This didn't happen in this case as he makes his final ride, getting off the Dan Ryan at 95th Street, about to go up on 95th.
All right, Mike, we are going to continue to monitor this, and we will have the latest coming up next on the NBC5 News at 5.